Good morning. You know what time it is. It's time to hear the music. Oh my gosh, you guys, today we're going to have a good day. See you in a second. Good morning. You're on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is a Coffee Break Show. I'm Vickie Helm, and it's brought to you by Metadime Digital Network. Today, we are going to rock the house. I see you guys piling on already. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Today, I have Teresa Greco on, and we are going to be talking about happiness. That's right. The thing that everybody is looking for right now at their core, happiness. Welcome to the show, Teresa. I am so glad you are here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here as well.
That's good. I just want to let everyone know. Okay. Hey, Karen, I'm glad you're on. Thank you for that. I'm so glad to see you. That's our executive producer. Carrie, nice to see you on. Good morning, Lori. Nice to have you here. So nice to have you. Thank you, Robin. Jane's coming on. Nice to see you, Jane. Great to see you. We are going to have a really great show today. And I know that a lot of people talk about this, and nobody wants to have a life that is unhappy. Everybody wants more happiness in their life. Everybody enjoys happiness. Today, Teresa, I just want to start at the beginning. I just want to start at the very, very beginning. You guys, I see you piling on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How did you get to this happiness coaching place? How did this happen for you? How did it start?
So basically for me, it was approaching 40 that was a turning point in my life, that I started asking some very important questions of my life that maybe some people can relate to. And some of those questions were, am I happy living the life I am living? Can I imagine living the same life for the next 40 years?
Deep question.
Am I living my life's true purpose and full potential? And in the asking of these questions, it was really illuminating the feeling that something was missing in my life, which seemed very odd to me because I had achieved all the things that, society, culture, religion, and family tells you that you should achieve in order to be and live a happy life. So very fulfilling career, beautiful family, our own home, cars in the driveway, vacations a year, lots of beautiful material things I feel very blessed for. So yeah. It was actually very puzzling to me in that how does my life look so perfect? And I didn't express it to anybody because of exactly that fear. Teresa, what do you have to complain about?
Yeah.
That how could you be feeling unhappy when you have all of these things? And so as I said, in the asking of these questions, I then started to delve deeper into some of the principles and practices that we'll touch on today that basically allowed me to realize that I had lost myself in the living of my life.
Yes.
That in trying to meet all the external expectations for my life, and as I said, whether that was societal expectations, cultural, religion, familial, that I reached a point that I didn't know who I was, that I was so busy trying to be the perfect mom, perfect wife, perfect daughter, daughter-in-law, sister, sister-in-law, friend, employee, etc., that it was, like I said, approaching 40 that I stepped back and I'm like, who am I? Who am I really? Because I'm trying to please everybody else every day and feeling like I said, something was missing, that I needed to be more and do more, maybe to fill this void, which again, it didn't make sense, because how is it that I had all of these beautiful things and yet still feeling, like I said, like something was missing? And so eventually, when like I said, one of the very first practices for me was meditation. That was something that I was guided to do at the time, which is like 8 years ago now, which back then was very woo-woo. It was like,
was. That's
what
right.
Is this, right? That I had been praying my whole life. And so that's also one of the things that I want to talk about, is how praying is very different than meditating. And
this is so interesting what you're saying. And I really want to stop right here, because I think one of the most interesting things you've said is, first off, every time we have a birthday with a 0 by it, we reflect. And 40 is a pivotal birthday. It is someplace where you stop and think. The second thing that I thought was really interesting about what you said is, I could see myself in my role as a woman in this world just falling into this trap. And you said something so interesting. You said, I didn't realize I was losing myself. Like you don't even realize it's happening at that point where you're losing yourself to expectations, other people's expectations. And then the third thing you said that I think was so powerful is you said, who am I really? Who am I really? The question that everybody wants to know, why am I here? Who am I? Why am I here? What was I made for? And those three things. But what I really want to know, what I think is important to know now is, was it a sudden moment, or was it an over the time that you said, hi, I'm 40 and this is happening, and who am I really? When is this like a sudden realization? Or were you unhappy and had to dig deep? Because I know there are so many women right now who are listening, who are saying, girlfriend, this is me in my life. And I feel that lost. I feel that. And to me, what 3 tips? I know we're going to go into the meditation, but what 3 tips in questioning yourself at this point would you ask them to do? Do you understand my question?
I do, and so I'm just trying to think what is the best way to answer it. In that, so no, I think part of it is that 40 is like that pivotal halfway point between.
Yes.
And as a mother of 2 children, and also, like I said, a successful career. I'm an educator. I'm a technology consultant, and in me trying to be the best that I could be for my family, for my kids, to be the best mom, to be like the best educator I could be. And that in trying to do that, there's like an exhaustion as well, in that you're so much for everyone else that you reach a point that you feel empty just because your bucket isn't full.
That's so true. You are preach it, girl. This is really the truth.
That you can't give more of yourself because you're not filling your own bucket. And so that, again, is when you start to tap into these principles and practices and methods that actually allow you to give that oxygen to yourself first.
Yes.
So you can be more for others. And so I think that's also some of the void that I was feeling, is that I had been giving of myself for so much and still saying, but, am I fulfilling my life's true purpose? And now I feel like our true purpose, that this is just it. Our true purpose is just to uncover who we really are.
Amen.
That we've been given cloaks over like the living of our life from very, very young, that we've adopted, and it's like been shielding our eyes from like who we really are on the outside, because society tells you should be this, you should look like this, you should be smart like this.
Yes.
You should do all of these things. And that then when you start to unravel and you start to peel off these different cloaks that you put on unconsciously. And for me, I feel like it was unconscious. It's only now that I'm like, when somebody tries to put the cloak on, do I say, is this like a hat that I want to wear? Is this serving? Is this honoring and respecting myself if I go ahead and put this hat on? So before it was like a blind adoption, whereas now I'm very cognitive and aware of what it is that I want to participate in, and isn't it in alignment with my truth?
Did you hear that? That should be a bumper sticker, what she just said. Am I even in alignment with what is said? I mean, that's giving yourself choices and truth. You are really speaking to my heart right now. I got to tell you, I am full on in this conversation with you because I feel this. Too many people feel they're expected to be or act or become something that they're not. This happens a lot with parents to their kids. And I got this over here question. Teresa, please tell us about your other 3 practices. They are great tips. And oh, boom, here it is. Our true purpose is to uncover who we truly are. And I absolutely 120,000% agree with this. This is the purpose of, it's like the gift of you is underneath all the, layers of stuff that we take on that isn't even us. So I want to pop back up here because now I'm curious. Teresa, please tell us about the other 3 practices. This means you talked to her before we did. She's great with that. They're like, great. So tell us about, those 3 practices. Let's see that,
So number 1, definitely meditation was the vehicle that got me started to identify that I am more than just my shell. I am more than just a human going through life, and that I now believe that I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, and that my body is just a learning device, that life is just learning, opportunity after learning to show you more of who you really are. So when I said it's about uncovering who you really are, life presents us with opportunities to allow us to discover who that is, right? So if we look at every opportunity that might be a trigger, that might be a challenge, we can look at that and say, what am I supposed to learn from this? So instead of saying, why me? Why does all this stuff happen to me? And woe is me. And no, if we turn that and rephrase it to say, this is for me. This opportunity, this learning opportunity is here to show me who I am, that I am patient, that I have the strength and courage to do this, that I'm a very maybe happy and loving and kind and generous and all those beautiful things that in the opportunity rise to the occasion. And then we can and trust that we have what it takes within us to complete that opportunity or to work through it and to arrive at the other side. So, and Beautiful. Then at the end, we can say, I've discovered a little bit more about me. And so if we go through life meeting these challenges and struggles and hardships with an open mind in saying that this is only here to show me more about myself. And Beautiful. So another thing that I've realized through my journey is that your external environment is just a reflection of what's happening on the inside. So What I mean by that is that when I was struggling before, really it was a low point in my life. I was struggling in my relationships. I was struggling in my relationship with my husband, it was like we were cohabitating because he was off working and doing what he could for the family. I was at home, also working and studying and doing, all the things I needed to do with the kids and all of that. Oh, no, now I lost my train of thought there for a second.
That's okay. It'll come back in a second. And while you're thinking about it, I want to go back to something you said that I thought there's a lot of profundity happening, and we're only 15 minutes into the show. So you better buckle up, people. We are taking you on it. So one of the things that I think is so important about right now is the uncovering of self. Now, I have asked this question to myself. I'm going back a little bit because I think it's so important. I remember when I decided that I was going to go to the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, and they asked me, they were like, Vickie, why do you want to be a healer? Why are you here? Why are you here at the school? And I said, because I want to know who I am before I die. And that singular question, I think that seed is planted in every person. There's a point where you're going to ask yourself, who am I? the most profound things happen when you ask that question. And she was talking about the unfoldment of that over that. I mean, don't you want to know who you are before you die? I mean, you're listening right now, you're watching the show. That question is the most important question you can ask, because it reveals the intention and the understanding that the path inward is going to lead you to you, where you have been living your life outwardly, doing everything, being everything. It's exactly what Robert said earlier about doing all these roles and things. Now, there are tools here. We're going to talk about the tools, and she's going to share a lot with you today about how that's there. But the truth is, even if you know how, you're going to have to take the action of meeting you. And I jump around a little bit. Hey, Ryan, nice to see you on. You have my heart already, Ryan. I know, right? She just came on and spewed all this wisdom. And I was like, this is how it needs to be. You're right. It is a mirrored world. This is the actual place you left off at.
Yes,
the mirroring it to you.
Yes.
Let's see. Whoa, I want to know who I am before I die. Oh, that's me. Okay, we'll move that on. You guys are talking really fast. I know I haven't even gotten to half the questions yet. I told her this was going to happen because it was such a great topic. Those who look outward dream, those who look inward awake. Thank you, Ryan. You were on my Facebook wall yesterday. Thank you. That is so true. Because you're so willing to take the trip to the heart, Ryan. That's right. And we're going to talk about that because I think that's where meditation lives. So going back to the mirrored thing, do you remember what you were going to say?
Yes.
Great. Let's continue on there.
And so there were issues with my relationships with other members of my family, as well as at work. And there wasn't, even though I was, like I said, I achieved all these things, there still wasn't a flow or an ease to my life. And I was seeing, like I said, issues within my relationships too. And so when I started to work on myself on the inside, when I corrected what was wrong, and it all starts with self-love. Yes. What I discovered by going inward is that I wasn't loving myself. And that, I think, is the absolute key. That when you love yourself, when you love, honor, and respect yourself, then your external environment all of a sudden starts to do the same. And so all of the issues I had in my relationships, as soon as I healed what was broken inside of me, all of a sudden my relationships all healed on the outside. Just like that. It is, but this is like the miracle in that, and this is what I'm trying to tell people, is that instead of us pointing fingers at, oh, he's not affectionate enough, he's not a good listener, he doesn't help me, he doesn't do this and this, or they don't, is that it all stands within you, that you have to be the change. That is like my most favorite quote from Gandhi is, be the change that you wish to see in the world. Be the change first.
There's a quote by Wayne Dyer I want to share at this point because I love that Gandhi quote. But the quote from Wayne Dyer is, change the way you look at things and the things you look at will change. And that's point of view, attention, focus, and perspective. And that's what she's talking about. That beautiful switch. We always think it's outside of ourselves, but she's saying if you change it on the inside, it'll change on the outside. That is a superhuman power that we all brush under the carpet and ignore. And you're bringing it up in this moment. This is heroic. This is the keys to the kingdom right here that she's sharing. And I really appreciate what you were saying. Your favorite quote from Gandhi, be the change you wish to see in the world. And that's where you left off.
Yeah, yes. It starts with you. And then, like I said, once I healed what was broken, then all of a sudden, all of my external relationships all healed themselves. And so that's why when I said that your external is just providing you with learning opportunities.
That's right. Every moment.
That when I wanted my partner to be more affectionate and a better listener, I needed to embody those things first. I needed to more affectionate first. I needed to be a better listener. I needed to be more helpful. And then all of a sudden it started showing up. But it was because it was like emanating from me first. But all he was doing was mirroring that. Was that, Teresa, you're actually not the best listener. Teresa, you're actually not that affectionate either. But it's like we get into those catch-22 that, oh, he's not affectionate, so I'm not going to be affectionate. And he's not doing this, so I'm not going to do that. Well, that's the wrong cycle, because if we actually are the ones initiating that, so if I'm being the more affectionate, then all of a sudden I'm going to see him being a more affectionate. But then people say, well, why do I have to be the better person? It's not, it's the better person, is that you are actually serving yourself.
That's correct.
That when we help others, we're helping ourselves. When we hurt others, we're hurting ourselves, because we're all part of the collective. We're all one. If people didn't see themselves as separate, yes, we're different. Yes, we look different, but on the inside, we're all the same. And so whatever it is that you're seeking and looking for, you need to embody that first. And then all of a sudden it starts to show up. So now I'm so excited about my life, because I'm so eager to find out more about who I am. Right?
I know, right? That you keep going. I want to interrupt for a second and just pop in there, because they're talking so fast. Hence the importance of being taught to love yourself. Easier to develop authentic men than fix broken men, or broken people, just broken people. Everything starts with self-love. Love, honor, and respect yourself. Now, everybody says this, but not a lot of people know how to do it. And today we're talking about the how, not just the phrase or the statement or the text or the context. The how is more important than even knowing that you need to love, honor, and respect yourself. How do you do that? Let's see. So I liked this. That was, when you do this, it is radical self-responsibility. Yes. But it is also some of the most empowering things that you can do. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. By the way, that is Wayne Dyer, that quote. I don't care if Max, whoever, it's Wayne Dyer, actually, is the originator of that quote. My favorite quote, be the change you wish to see in the world, Mahatma Gandhi, amen. You first, then everyone else. Love that radical self-responsibility. Teresa is so powerful. I appreciate what you're sharing. Me too. This is so speaking to my heart. And this is a big one right here. Match the vibration of which you seek, and it will manifest. It can be no other way. This isn't philosophy. This is physics. Yeah. Albert Einstein. Thank you. Another one of my favorite quotes, by the way. I'm kind of a quote nerd. But so going this way one more time. So brilliant. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for this continued conversation. I want to talk about what she's already asking. Please tell us what are the 4 tools you use? You have been asking that. You are just so curious. Tell us. Okay, so let's start with those questions. Let's go a little bit deeper.
Okay, so I would say the 4, there's lots of, so in the span of like the last 8 years when I've been working on myself, and I continue to work on myself, because the universe just brings you more opportunities to do more learning. But I would say number 1, it all started with meditation. I really feel that meditation is the key that opens the door. It opens the path to more self-discovery. That when I started with that, it then led me to the next opportunity. And then that one led to the next one. And so like, it's almost as if the divine very carefully guides you so that you are ready to kind of tackle that next learning experience. So number 1 is meditation. Number 2 was awakening to the negative self-talk that was going on in my head. And
Amen.
So all of the conditioning and bullying and negative things that were said to me. So those cloaks that, I took on over the course of my life, where I wasn't pretty enough. I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't athletic enough. I wasn't, a whole bunch of things that people are like, you can't do that. Oh no, why would you want to do that? I don't even think you can do it. So it's all of these negative things that have been said to you that then become part of what you say to yourself. And those are, when we understand how the brain actually works, that it then creates neural pathways in the brain where the same thoughts recycle themselves every single day. We have 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them are the same from the ones from the day before, and the ones before that, and the ones before that. And then the other interesting thing is that 95% of it is in our subconscious mind.
Yep.
So because we're habitual beings, we automatically like go through life in autopilot, right? That, you know, we might get up in the morning, we do the same routine in the same order, and then we get to work and we don't even know how we got there because we do the same path every day. And that's us living in autopilot, the 95% out of the subconscious. That leaves us 5% every day to be cognitive of those 60 to 70,000 thoughts that are from the past. So most of the time we're living in the past. So that's why it's so important to become cognitive of what is happening in the brain and awakening to the fact that, number one, I'm not my thoughts. And that my brain is like operating like that, but I don't have to choose to accept what my mind is saying. And I have the ability to rewrite it. And that's what's very cool. And that's what the power is that when I have a thought come into my head that's not serving me. So if I look into the mirror and I'm like, oh, geez, Teresa, you really need to get onto that like diet program again. Or like, oh, this is just not a good day for you. Is that I can say, like, why am I saying this? Like, who said this? And why did I adopt it as my own word?
Yes.
And that's where positive affirmations made a huge difference for me. And that,
you know, I want to share that we have this saying in our group here. We are, this is such an important thing, what she's saying. It comes down to that same thing we talk about. Thoughts can only do two things. That's it. Two things only. They'll either impair your abilities or empower your abilities. And this is exactly the work she's talking about. You're either impairing or empowering yourself. Thoughts aren't things. They're not who you are. And we don't take them on. Is it going to impair me or is it going to empower me? That choice that she's talking, that choice of making that place in you that stops and says, is this serving me? If it's not, throw it out, man. Just so simple. And that, I love that you said that 6% place, because I think what meditation does is grow that 6% into 7% over time, then 8% over time. And there's more of you that slowly shows up as you develop this thing here. So number 2 was awaken to the negative self-talk in your head. What can we continue on with it? Because I interrupt her all the time. I may do that all the time. You guys, I see you, but I'm so into what she's saying. And I want to get it all out. Well, I promise I'll get to you. Go ahead.
So it's awakening to the limiting beliefs and be playing it small. And that's what also awoke within me, is that I wasn't playing my big self. I wasn't playing the big Teresa. I was playing the small Teresa.
Yes.
And that I didn't want to share the good things that were happening to me. I didn't want to share my goals and aspirations because I felt like people were always just like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so when I awoke to the fact that I had adopted that small Teresa, then I'm like, forget it. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not playing the small self. And I have the ability to do anything that I put my mind to, that I am whole and perfect, just as I am, that I don't need to be more and do more to try to have that external validation, that external acceptance, that external love, that I have that within me. And I'm no longer seeking that outside myself. And as I was saying, positive affirmations was a big turning point for me, in that Louise Hay calls that mirror work. She coined it mirror work, where I started by trying to look at myself in the mirror, like in the eyes, and say, I love you. I love everything about you. And I couldn't tell myself that. I was crying. I didn't have it within me. And so over the rewriting, that every time a negative thought came, and it's not that you arrive to a good place and then you're there. No, practice this every single day, that a thought will arise, and then I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to blindly accept it. I'm going to look at it and I'm going to rewrite it and say, no, Teresa, you are beautiful. And no, Teresa, you are healthy. And no, Teresa, whatever it is. And then just repeating that, then what happens is, because of the neuroplasticity in the brain, it actually creates those new neural pathways that then become deeper and deeper, and they become the new thoughts that your brain adapts to and adopts, and the older ones fall away. And then it's as if they didn't even happen. So positive affirmations is definitely a tool to do that. A third tool is living in the now. Being in the now that's where our joy is. And we live so, as I said, 95% of the time we're in our subconscious, which is based on the past. And that leaves us 5% that maybe a lot of people are living in the future, right?
Yes,
and all
so many people do.
So much fear and worry about, thinking about the future. And that's where they say, depression and anxiety are different, right? That depression is you living in the past and anxiety is you living in the future. But if you just live like now in the present moment, this is where the joy resides. And the more that we can live and be, again, pulling our thoughts to the now, be present. And like now when I eat, I don't eat with distraction. I'm not on my phone. I'm not watching TV. I'm there savoring my food and really like enjoying my break, enjoying my downtime. And so much of like when I'm in, there was a time when we were, they were saying that multitasking is the way to go. Right? Oh, yeah.
I cannot multitask. I can't do it. I tell everybody I can focus on one thing and that's what I can do.
And that's what we should be doing. Then research has shown that it actually increases stress and anxiety when we are multitasking and our concentration's in many different places at the same time, and we're never fully present in anything that we're doing because we're constantly distracted.
I totally get that. I don't know how people can split their attention and stay fully focused on. It's impossible. I really thank you for this, because I remember in the beginning, it's like, you can't multitask. No, I don't multitask. You get a little shaming from people, a little judgment from people when they're like, you can't multitask, because multitasking used to be a big, probably still is, I don't know, corporate word that it's like, can't you do both at once? No, not well.
No, and you don't want to, and you're not fully enjoying anything that you're really doing, right? That if you're having like a lunch with a friend, but then you're on your cell phone or you have a call, let me, catch this call and then whatever, is that, are you fully appreciating the person that's in front of you that's giving you their time? And you're not, because you're being pulled in all these different directions. And so when we're there in the present moment is where our joy is, because we're not being brought down by the past and we're not like fearing, worrying about the future.
Did you hear that? That is one of the most important statements she's made. Happiness can only be, you don't understand. Happiness isn't something in the future. It's not something in the past. If you're feeling happiness in the past, you're having a memory. Yes. If you're feeling happiness in the future, it's a fantasy. If you feel happiness in the moment, you are present. And the only way to feel true happiness is in the present. You guys, I'm going to pop over here for a second. They are just really ruckus. Today, I worked with a coach who gave me an assignment on the first day. Look in the mirror and say, I love you. One of the most challenging things I had ever had to do. I wanted to go back to this because I thought this was important. The book out right now, New York Times bestseller, is called The Gift. She has this thing where she says, just go and look in the mirror. I'm paraphrasing right now. I hope I get it right. Say, I love you. I will never abandon you. I appreciate who you are. I've been saying I love you in the mirror every day for decades and decades and decades. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. You're in there. So I want to say, MJ, so true. One thing, no stress. That's right. One thing at a time. Check out the book called Single Tasking. I will. Thank you, because I think that's a good sign of a book. Wow, Karen, you're so beautiful and such a big heart. Totally lovable of being with you. I love you. Thank you, guys. You guys are amazing. Once again, why aren't we taught these things in youth through high school? Yes, that is the question. I also liked what you said, and I think this is very, very important. When we meditate, we understand that we are a multi-dimensional being. And here's the thing. She said earlier, like way back in the beginning of the conversation, she realized that she was a spiritual or soul having a human experience. That's very important. When you have a human experience, you have a brain. The brain is toxic thoughts and has to be retrained. And she's talked to you about how to have the toxic thoughts and renegotiate what you're saying to yourself and how you feel about yourself. And the brain is still part of a gateway into the soul of you, but not when it's toxic. It has to be cleaned out. This is the hero's journey. We're talking about the hero's journey right now. Your heart is the other access point to the other part of you that will take you to your soul. The soul is the thing that she's talking about that has all the love, all the knowing, all the being, all the seeing, everything there. If you cannot access that part of you, do you understand that you are not accessing you? So she's given us 3 tools so far as to how she goes ahead and accesses. And one of the most important ones is the meditation piece. I'm reviewing everything you say because I think today's show is so important. If you're driving in your car right now and you can't hit that push back button or wherever you are listening to this show, the keys to happiness is to transform into your spiritual being in a way that you discover who you actually are, because the general state of you in that place is happy. It's just happy. And I'm loving this. Well, that's true. There's 2 access points. She's talked about them both. It's like happiness is a feeling. It's not a thought. And thinking, what she's noticed is she grew up with gnarly thinking like everybody else does. And the first thing she had to do is that neuroplasticity thing she just talked about catching yourself, etc. This is the hero's journey. You have to go through this desert. It's kind of like if you had an illness, no matter what, you don't care who you got it from. It's your job to heal your body and get to it. It's the soul healing in this way. And I want to drop a little deeper with that because schools are slow to progress like government, but the beauty is that you have these lessons and you can teach them to your kids and your friends. You're a super role model. Yes, she is. Thank you very much for that. One of the things that I want to know is because there's a point sometimes where, let's say we have knee-jerk reactions, and I know I don't bat 1,000, but I do know that when I have a little meltdown or stuff goes, my reaction goes, I can come back to center just so fast. How do you, when you're like, okay, swing and a miss, and how do you get to the point where you come back to center quickly? What tools do you have?
2 really important ones. Yesterday was one of those days for me, and so I totally needed to do that. So that is what I talk about, following your bliss and understanding and recognizing what that bliss is. Like, what are those activities that bring you there? And then once you've discovered them, then it's just a matter of reaching for them, right? But you have to, I've had people say to me, well, what about if I don't know what my bliss is? Because I've been so busy working. You know, I work crazy hours and then I come home, I'm just like sleeping, and then doing the rat race every day, all day, trying to, maybe pay for all of the things that we think we should have to be happy and to be fulfilled and all of that then it leaves us very little time to participate in those blissful activities, as well as maybe just to discover what those are. So that's one of the things which I can talk about a little bit more. And then the second is having an attitude of gratitude. Gratitude, yes, something that spirit tells us to do all the time. That gratitude is one of those missing, like is one of those keys. It's like that missing link to, again, where the happiness resides. And research shows that gratitude and happiness are directly correlated, that the more grateful you are, the more happy you are. Wow. So I once had someone say to me, Teresa, I thought it was the other way around, that people that are happy are grateful. So they're happy because they have things, they go on vacations, they have a great job, perfect relationship, all these things. And that's why they're happy. And it's so easy to be grateful then, but it's actually the other way around, that we need to be grateful first, and then the feeling of happiness comes, because you really have all those things and still not feel happy, which is like, again, part of my journey, right?
You have to acknowledge it. Yeah.
And so that gratitude then for me starts the moment I wake up. Every moment, the moment I open my eyes, I'm like, thank you. I have another day to live today.
Amen.
And then right away, it's like, oh, I can't wait to have my coffee, because I love the one that like the brew that just like tastes so good. And I'm like, okay, I need to make my way to the kitchen so I can have that. And then my entire day unfolds where I'm constantly grateful for all those small little blessings, those small little miracles that present themselves all day.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
And so, and when you, again, be in the moment, it's all about being in the moment. You can recognize them, right? I can recognize that helpful cashier that helped me at the grocery store. I can be thankful for that parking spot that's like right by the door where, you know, I live in Toronto where it's cold and blistery. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. I didn't have to walk really far to get inside. And like looking outside and looking at like how nature's unfolding right now. And then, oh, look at how the geese have come back, you know, after the long winter. And then look at like the little buds that are now starting to sprout on the trees. But it's, if you're not there in the moment, you miss all of these small little blessings that over the course of the day, at the end of the day is when I practice my gratitude practice, where I go through all the different things that I was thankful for, that, it's family and it's health. It's all these things where those are like the staple ones. But then there was like the small little things that were different during the day that I'm like, oh, thank you for that opportunity that made me smile, that made me laugh, that it's like, I don't know, it's finding those little things that then you end up feeling like your life is so blessed and so abundant that and you recognize too that you can choose to be happy even when your external environment may not be exactly the way you want it to. And during COVID and this pandemic and everything, it's so important to remember that we can't control anything outside of ourselves. We can't control anyone's actions, their opinions, their thought, anything. We can only control our own. And so when we understand that is the case, and I can still choose to be happy by doing all these little things, then overall, I feel like I live in a very beautiful bubble. And I'm so thankful for this little bubble that I have around. But I'm creating that bubble, right? By eliminating toxic relationships, by eliminating things that bring negativity. So you said something just before we started the interview about, something that happened, in your community. And I said, I don't watch the news because for me, it's just anxiety causing. So your body is so in tune to tell you when you're not feeling in alignment. And so this will lead me into talking about following your bliss, because yesterday I felt it in my body. Today I feel different because I did my self-care things. But yesterday I was like, oh my God, I am so in my head today and I don't feel good. I had pain all down my neck. Pain all in here. And I'm like, okay, this is my body's way of saying, okay, I'm not in alignment. I'm not feeling centered and grounded. And I need to do my blissful activities to try to recenter and realign myself. And for me, that's getting out in nature. As soon as I got home yesterday, I had like a quick bite to eat and off I was walking. And being out in nature is like breathing and, being in touch with your breath and taking in those really long, deep breaths automatically like lowers the stress. It brings like calm and serenity within you. And then being out in nature, it's just being close to Mother Earth. It just automatically does that. So I'm like, I need to get outside like quick. And I spent like a good amount of time just walking. And then second is for me, it's reading or listening to the books that remind me of what's important. Right?
Oh God, that's a big one for me. I do that every single morning. My habit. The first thing I want to do is center myself with the divine. That's absolutely the first thing. And of course I have a cup of coffee with it like you, because I'm like, oh, there's the Joe. I can smell it in the air. But when I sit down and have coffee, the first thing I do is align with the divine, because that is how my day unfolds. And when I am in that place, I read also some of that spiritual books, etc., because you have to be reminded every morning about who you are, what you do, why you're here. And I love that you do that. I think that is a great habit. And I do it for at least 30 minutes every day, including contemplation and meditation as well. It's just something that you have to start your day with if you want to win the day.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And then last night, then it was, so after I did all the reading, then there was the meditating just before I went to bed. So I will try to, and I did it again this morning too, because I'm like, I just need to start my day off right. So meditating is like a way of being able to connect that mind, body, and spirit all together, that we are not just the mind and body, that we are that spirit part of us too. And when we recognize that, and it's like uniting all those parts of ourselves, that then we can feel whole, that there isn't this void, there isn't this, that there's something missing, because we are connecting with that other part to ourselves, that we are in this world, but not of this world.
That's right. That's absolutely it. That is the bottom line right there. I want to pop over here. Glad you speak about getting close to nature. Seems society is drifting away from nature and becoming more lost as a result. I agree with that. I think, I miss the, hey, go outside and play kind of day. And that's a big deal. It was interesting. I found that COVID brought a lot of people out to nature. It did, because the second we had to be stuck in the house all day, our brain rebelled and said, no, we don't. You can't tell me what to do. And suddenly we're outside. And the virus was probably, see, I got you to go outside. I want to say, if you guys have questions for her, because I see this, I can't even follow how fast you guys are writing. I'm just putting them up there as we go. And I want to drop a little deeper. Is that all right with you? Is that okay with you guys? We spend a little time. I also want to say, before, I promise you'll get to connect with her, but Karen has already done this. Karen, would you do me a favor and put up her Instagram tag so everybody can find her there as well, so that we could be on that Instagram, etc. And what I want to say is, this is the fundamental, foundational practice of being human right now, is that it's that for years, we have been blinded by advertising and people taking our attention and moving us out of ourselves. I don't know if it's been deliberate or not. I don't know. My guess is that it's probably deliberate, but we are now, everything is outside of ourselves, and we look and look and look and look and look. It gives us a feeling of unhappiness and confusion, and we get dutiful. We get to the point in the beginning where she said, you lose yourself. No matter what, as long as you're outside of yourself, you're losing yourself, because your attention is going somewhere else. Now, what if there was something inside you who knew every single step you should take, exactly where you should go, how you want to move forward? What if there was something inside of you that you've forgotten, because you've forgotten how to access it now? You let this inner part of you atrophy. And what we're looking at right now with Teresa is the rehabilitation of making this inner part of you, this inner world, coming home to you in such a way that it creates the happiness that you seek. So the most important thing I want to get today is that happiness isn't outside of you, it's inside of you. And here are the ways in. This is what we're talking about today. Thank you. And you guys, if you want to be connected with her, there is her Instagram page. Go ahead and follow her. Pop that on. Do that now. It's in the feed. You can either go to, here's her Facebook page, here's an Instagram page. So she's everywhere you want to be. You just follow her and click that. I see you guys right here, distracted from our true nature. That's correct. Now, I don't care if you've had elbow surgery, knee surgery, heart surgery, whatever surgery, there is always a time where rehabilitation is there. You don't want to be mean with yourself. You want to be gentle with yourself, and you want to go ahead and meet yourself. Let's take that a little bit now after you start rehabbing. All the tools she gave us so many tools today. I think I could make a worksheet from it. And then what happens is you begin to come inward into yourself. How do you not lose yourself? She gave us 3 examples of that today. How to not lose yourself. Go back out in nature. Go to the point where you use gratitude. Go to the point where when you hit the floor in the morning, you are thankful for another day of living, and read something that's inspirational, that is spiritual, that helps you understand you. Those are the 3 principles she gave us that are so powerful. If you recognize it in others, it will exist within you. Now, I want to talk about the real truth here, because she gave you a litmus test today. She gave you a litmus test. What did she say? I will remind you. She talked about how other people are a mirror for what's inside you. That mirror is so important. I mean, honestly, this could have been a 3-day boot camp, what we got today for free. And I'm just, thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
But that litmus test, I want to go back to that piece of the conversation, because I think it's so easy to judge other people. And to be able to be aware enough to catch yourself projecting onto another person. Do you have some tips on how to kind of catch yourself in that mode?
Thank you for bringing up judgment. That was, and I've been working on this, I would say, like diligently over like the last 5 or 6 years in particular, trying to eliminate judgment.
Me too.
And it is so freeing when you don't have an opinion about things. Like, I don't know. I don't really care. Like, if that person's happy doing that, that's all that matters to me. And the reason why I decided to do that was that I felt I was being judged all the time. I was being like, again, I wasn't good enough like this. I wasn't smart enough, pretty enough. I couldn't do this. You're not doing it right. You should be doing this. You should be more generous. You should be more kind. You should be judging. So much judgment that I was taking on that I'm like, oh my God, how do I get out of this? And then when I realized that it all starts within me, I was like, okay, I am going to work at not judging other people because I don't want to receive judgment. And so I have been, every time that I feel like, oh, an opinion is formulating about something, right away it's like, no, does that make that person happy? Then that's all that matters to me. Are you happy doing that? That's all that matters. And then it just becomes the default, Vickie. This is what's important is to recognize is that we don't have to get stuck in that rut behavior or in that those thoughts that are in a bad place just because it's your default. It's the way the brain operates, that we can change that and take those steps towards it. So I have, every time, that's just what it is. It's being aware and cognitive, being aware of the thoughts that aren't serving you and what you want to change. And that was a big thing for me. And I feel like I feel it less. I feel like people aren't judging me. And the important is I don't care. Even if they are,
That's right. You get to that. That's self-love.
Because nobody really knows what your true heart is, right? And I know that when I approach everything that I do with 100% love and my intentions are pure and I am serving like my spirit, my heart, then I don't care what other people say, because it's really not important. It's important that I'm being true to myself. This is about how you get to a point where you're living your authentic self. And
beautiful.
It does take being vulnerable. Absolutely, it does, because there's a part of you that's like, oh, do I want someone to, see that part of me? And in me speaking and writing and doing all the things that I do now, in sharing that vulnerability, that low point in my life that I was very fearful to share, because for loss of love, for that like loss of validation and acceptance. But when you find that, like you said, when you find that inside of yourself, then it really doesn't matter. It's like the outside, if you have it, then it's just like icing on the cake. It's like, oh, thank you so much for appreciating me and, for your compliment or whatnot. But like, really, you knew that inside yourself before. So it's not that it's not nice to receive. It's absolutely nice to receive it. But it's like, you've already patted yourself on the back first, because you know that you're living your authentic self, and that's all that you can do. And that is where the loving and honoring yourself first is that, does it align with you? Does it feel good? Does it feel good? Like that's our. And so I wanted to also mention about tapping into your inner magic. And that's what I like to call, that intuition within you that, someone made a comment that, we don't talk about this in schools, is that we really should be taught to listen to our intuition, to that little voice inside of us that guides us, right? That tells us from small when someone did something to us that didn't feel good. Right. Yeah. That little friend that was like, I'm not playing with you right now. Or no, you're not part of our group. And then inside, like, that didn't feel good. But then you go and tell someone, and then the teacher's like, well, don't tattletale, go figure it out, all this. And then you're like, okay, I'm just going to bottle it down. I'm just going to sweep it under the rug. I'm going to put it into the closet. And this becomes our coping mechanisms that then as adult, we're coping with drugs and like prescription drugs, alcohol, events, parties, networking, restaurants, all these things that COVID has made inaccessible. So now it's like,
all our coping mechanisms have been yanked. Oh, mirror, mirror on the wall. That's a very cool insight.
Yeah. And so if we were as children taught to understand those moments of like, this feels good, this didn't feel good. And it didn't feel good because it wasn't right? That action that someone did wasn't out of love. It wasn't a loving action. There's only love and fear. There's only those two. Love is all the beautiful emotions that kind of spread out from that, right? The joy, the peace, the harmony, all those other beautiful things. And then from the fears, there is the anger, the frustration, the resentment, all of that other stuff, right? So there's only the two. So that's why if it didn't feel good, it's because it wasn't out of love, right? And then if we were given the skills to be able to like address it instead of just like pushing it down and saying, well, that was really dumb. Maybe I shouldn't feel like that. And maybe I should change myself so I can be liked by this other person. And so it starts from small, that it has this like cycle that then builds on itself. And then we become adults where we're hanging out with people who don't even appreciate your time, appreciate you for your time.
That's so important for everyone to understand. It's like, I see you guys. Okay. Yes, I agree with this. We've been forced to see ourselves more clearly through COVID. Yes, we have. And what I want to say here, I want to get really real with people, because the chances of you listening to this particular day, to listen to this complete message, is absolutely divine. So I don't know if you're listening to it while we're live on the radio or Amazon TV, whatever you're listening to right now, whatever we're talking about, it's great to have the knowledge. It's great because you're not ignorant then. And it is more fulfilling to do the work. And here's what I know. Sometimes when I have to do the work, I have to be willing to drop my ego in the morning, in the day, when it happens. So I want to talk about being defensive. And in that main bit of defensiveness that I get, I love to be right. And when I'm not right, or I'm choosing to be right, I know I'm in my brain. And you have to be willing to cut your ego off right then. I mean, that's the hard work when that defensive or that anger or that shadow self shows up and you're like, you're not, hi, I'm smiling, and gratitude isn't working in that moment. What can you do to shut off your ego other than being, I'm willing to do it? Like, to me, if my ego shows up right away, I'm slicing it. We're going over. I promise I'll wrap this up soon, but I just really love having her on. This is a great conversation. But just a couple of tips to slay the ego when it rolls up and it rears its ugly head.
And I think the ego is fear. Our true selves is love. So if you right away are able to identify the emotion that's coming up as one or the other, right? So then it doesn't feel right. I'm like, this is ego. This is ego trying to protect. That's always what the ego's incentive. It's like, going back to our primitive maybe nature, is that it's trying to like keep us safe from danger, right? And so the ego identifies with that all the time. So like you said, trying to be right, and being stubborn about it or whatever. So if we can in that moment identify who are we right now? Are we acting out of ego or are we acting out of love? And so when we can do that, it can help us to snap out and say, this is not my true nature. My true nature is love. And so how do I get back to that place where I can feel? So how do I remove myself from the negative emotions, like how I felt yesterday, and to bring me to a better place? So knowing what those blissful activities are for you, what do you participate in that you feel inspired, which means to be in spirit. And when we are in spirit, right, we're connected to our spirit and to the bigger spirit, the big S as well, right? And so, whether it be watching those comedy movies or the sappy drama ones, or it's the books, or it's going out for a hike, or it's playing with your dog, or playing with your kids, or listening and dancing to that music that like right away, as soon as you, like, for me, songs is a big thing. I have a playlist.
Me too. It takes me right back to center.
Yeah, and it's called my feel-good songs, right? And right away, I'm like, oh, I just need a boost. And so then I will play that, and then right away I feel it, like, it's like your mojo's all
change your state. Yep.
And you can switch. You can switch from that ego to that loving part of yourself. So it's knowing what those strategies are, recognizing it in the moment, and then saying, I'm going to change the thought. I'm going to change the behavior. I'm going to completely think about something else. So it's like, stop, and then let me go ahead and reroute this. And meditation, like I said, is such a big component. And I'm so happy that it's become such a buzzword now, Vickie, because like I said, when I did it 8 years ago, it was like, this is woo-woo. Whereas now we have so many meditation apps and meditation facilitators and coaches and everyone working to try to get people to give it a try, right? The one of the things I really love about meditation is that you can bring all that frustration in with you. Some people think that it's like, well, how am I going to be able to get into that when I'm so in my head, when I'm so overwhelmed with like negative emotions? Spirit says, bring yourself to that. Bring yourself with all of that to your practice.
That's right.
And then start to like do some of the things that can help your body to relax. Let's just start with that, with a mindful meditation, which is just, how am I feeling right now? Is my heart racing? Are my shoulders tense? Are they like all the way up to my ears? Am I feeling like a rigidity in the body? Am I feeling sick to my stomach? Like, just being mindful of, where am I? How am I? And that's it, right? We can just take it from even just the very physical perspective before we dive maybe a little bit further, but just being cognitive of the breath. The breath is, even if anyone practices yoga, they will know that they will say, get in touch with your breath, because all of a sudden we'll feel like that centering and grounding. And then, with a mindful meditation where we can very slowly let go of that tension that's, at the top of our head and then behind our eyelids and in our jaw and in our shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, pay attention to it. Like, what are you feeling there? And then it's okay, now we're going to let this go. And then moving down your body very slowly. And it could just be that. It's not that you have to go there and say, I can't sit there and not think about anything for 5 minutes. No, you don't. There's so many different types of meditation that don't let, like, even what your perception of what meditation is deter you from exploring the different kinds that there are. And sometimes it's a bit of a combination of both. And, I recently met someone that said that all her goal was just to try to do it for 1 minute, to just sit there for 1 minute and just pay attention to her breathing. That's it. And then she built on that to like 2 minutes and then 3 minutes. And then one day she was like, well, what if I just take this outside and just sit outside, in the sunshine. And then again, try to pay attention to like what you're hearing, right? And where we can then, like, what are you hearing with your ears, or what are you feeling on your skin? And doing these things that's a focused meditation where you're now focusing on, something specific. So if it's just what you're hearing with your ears, or what are you feeling on your body or in a certain area of your body, and just focusing on that, that's all, right? It's not that you have to try to eliminate all the thoughts from the whole day that feel like they're so overwhelming. It's just like, let's just focus on like one small thing for like a minute, and then building on it to 2 minutes. And then people are saying that they find that as soon as they start, even really starting small, is that they're noticing their relationships are getting better, that they're sleeping better, that they feel more calm inside. That you think, well, I don't know if I believe in any of this. Well, it's like, maybe just try it.
Just try it out. I think that's the most important thing. She's not asking for hours. 1 minute, 1 minute. And, it's interesting too, because I did that too. I started meditating in my very early 20s. Wow. And I remember the first time sitting down to meditate, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm bored. And then just working it up. And then, 3 days or 30 days and literally getting to the point where it was an hour. I've done 8 hours, 10 hours, 12 hours in a day. These things help open you up. I love this right here, because I think this is the real introduction. I used to do guided meditation with my kids at night, and we practice putting their worries, fears, and anxiety on a bush outside the secret garden. That is, starting young. There are things that we can do. Just start. I want to say, you guys, we are over time, and I know that you want her to go on and on and on and on, and I do too. And we have this space and place where the show has to actually come to a close. And I see you guys still out there. Thank you for being here. But listen, this has been so enjoyable. So enjoyable to speak with you. What I enjoyed about it was that it was uplifting. And, I want to let you know, there are people out there who we tell you, we bring the best experts in. We go ahead and we put them on. They give you their best tips, tools, and techniques. And today, I got to say, she has definitely over-delivered for us on the processes, the how-tos, the ways to get in, everything about creating authentic happiness, not just a feeling in the moment, not a bit of motivation, but enjoying you in such a way that you can manifest yourself into this world. Teresa, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for sharing so deeply. I loved having you all. You guys, you can connect with her there. Oh, wait, there's just one more thing. We all can't leave without the music. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.